California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerantz. He is back. He is Chris Ungar. He is on the San Luis Coastal School Board. But one could say, more importantly, he is the vice president of the California School Boards Association. So no doubt you saw this headline. Governor Brown appeals teachers' ruling. What does that refer to? That refers to the Vergara ruling, where the court ruled that California's teacher tenure system, dismissal system was unconstitutional. We weren't clear if the state was going to appeal, but they have.
Right, and now, so the state has appealed, so the governor asked the attorney general to appeal. Tom Torlakson, who's the state superintendent of public instruction, could not make that direct appeal himself. I don't believe he could, so I believe he went through the attorney general.
I understand.
So what the governor did, the governor said, I think very interestingly, he didn't really address whether he supported the Vergara decision or not. He supported it. He asked for the appeal, I think, on more technical grounds. And so in his comments, what he talked about was he didn't think that a 16-page decision, which is what Judge True gave, really gave enough detail as to why he called those three things unconstitutional. And he's asked for a higher court to review the case.
So let's flesh this out.
Which is not surprising. We knew that there was going to be appeal.
But let's flesh this out, because as you know, recently there was a debate between Governor Brown and Neil Kashkari, the Republican who's running against the Democrat Jerry Brown, and Mr. Kashkari hammered him on the appeal of Vergara. What did you make of that exchange? It was one of the highlights of the debate.
You know, and it did not surprise me one single bit, because I think you and I have talked about this before. I think the Vergara decision is certainly a watershed moment in California education law.
It's explosive.
It is absolutely explosive, probably on many fronts. So the governor's remarks, I thought, were very interesting. Let's talk about what Kashkari said. Kashkari talked about if you support teacher tenure, you're not supporting kids, and you're not supporting kids in poverty, and you're not supporting the kids that, as Governor Brown rightly pointed out, he's addressing in the LCFF, the local control funding formula, right?
It's very textured.
It is so. And Kashkari, as would be in a debate like that, kept coming back to that. You don't support this. You can't be supporting kids. Well, the governor said, interestingly enough, wait a minute. What I think is, not what I think, but I mean, that wouldn't be what the governor would say, but what the governor said was, I absolutely support kids. I've done the LCFF. We passed a teacher dismissal bill, AB 215, last year, and then he says, but if we need to revisit this next year, we're going to revisit it next year.
Let's talk about AB 215, because that is true, that was passed. It was passed after the Miramonte case really broke into the news. As we know, the Miramonte case, forgive me, I've said this before, that was the case where the teacher served semen on a spoon. And what did he get? He got a 25-year sentence, and he got a $40,000 payout from the district. Now, with AB 215, yes, that situation would be resolved. Quicker dismissal, but not for ineffective teachers.
Yes, and I think that's where we're going to see really the fallout from the Vergara decision. And who knows how it's going to work out, but I think I'm going to prognosticate in just a moment on it. So, yeah, it addressed egregious teacher behavior. Absolutely, we know that. But how do you deal with teacher competency?
And that's what we're going to talk about.
That's going to be the tough part.
That's what we're going to talk about when we come back. For our viewers on HLN, thank you so much for joining us. For our other viewers, we'll be right back with Chris Ungar. So yes, how do you deal with teacher incompetency? Let's talk about this. I understand that every year, well, let me ask you, I don't know if I asked you this before. Every year in the state of California, how many teachers are dismissed for ineffective teaching?
I don't know that number. I believe. Well, tell me what the number is, because it's probably very low. That would be my guess.
Not in San Luis Coastal, not in San Luis County, not on the Central Coast, but in the entire state of California, the average dismissal rate for teacher ineffectiveness is 2.
Two in all of California.
All of California.
Okay.
So that means 0.0008% of teachers are dismissed every year for ineffective teaching. That is a campaign commercial.
That is absolutely a campaign commercial. And when I said I was going to prognosticate, I think I absolutely can prognosticate that this will continue to be a huge issue. One has to wonder whether somebody is not already planning an initiative on this.
Well,
and who's it going to be, and what's it going to look like?
Well, there was an initiative, as you know, a few years ago.
That was pulled.
Well, the Schwarzenegger administration.
That was one.
Right, in 2006. Right. That went down. That would have extended teacher tenure. And so a lot of folks who are opposed to Vergara and changing teacher tenure rules say, well, wait, we already had an initiative. It went down. But I don't know if you can extrapolate from that. That was a different time. Mr. Schwarzenegger was not popular during that era. And so you have an initiative today. I mean, suburban moms may just say enough is enough.
Well, and I don't think it's just suburban moms. This is but it is a hugely complicated issue. But I was going to say I had an interesting conversation with a retired teacher last week, and this teacher said, "I don't want my grandkids with incompetent teachers." This was a retired teacher.
Here's the issue, if I may say, it is a complicated issue,
right?
But it's one that an effective marketing strategist could synthesize in a way that will allow the opponents of teacher tenure to be victorious, in my opinion. I mean, Miramonte, bodily fluids on a spoon, 0.0008% dismissal.
Well, and Miramonte, of course, is absolutely the worst case, criminal case, absolutely. The more complicated and more difficult question is going to be, how do you determine teacher competency? Now, I do a lot of things, obviously, and so I was listening to the radio the other day, and there was an interview with somebody who does teacher histories. She said that tenure comes from the early part of the 20th century, and it was actually a German model, which I thought was very interesting.
I actually know. Actually, it's a miracle. Well, not really. I'm a wealth of irrelevant information, but I know that the first state to offer teacher tenure was New Jersey.
Yeah, now I don't know that, but what this person said, whether it's true or not, I can only repeat what she said, was that it was a way to protect teachers in the early part of the 1900s, when teachers were fired because they were pregnant, when teachers were fired because they didn't want to be paid more, when teachers were fired for political activities.
Here's the challenge.
And
look, I have kids in school. We love our teachers.
Absolutely.
And so, it's easy to bash teachers with anecdotes, with Miramonte, with 0.0008%. It's not necessarily fair, but it's easily done. And so when you combine that with, I don't know any other profession where you get lifetime tenure after 2 years. Again, the optics of this are crushing.
And you are absolutely right. So the other reasons I thought were interesting, according to this source, were that teachers were paid less, and they accepted that, but in return they accepted pensions, and they accepted these job protections.
I don't think pensions are as controversial as it relates to teachers specifically. It's the 2 years.
It is now we're starting to talk about the complexity of it. So the first thing is 16 months probation. Really, we've talked about this before. It is not 2 years, it's 16 months because of the March 15th deadline. That's the first thing. The second thing is, how do we determine teacher competency? Do we do it on single standardized tests? Even Arnie Duncan now is saying single standardized tests are not appropriate. But we know that there are states that are going that way. So how do you fairly look at a teacher's performance? And that's going to be the rub. And getting back to Vergara, circling back to Vergara, we get to that last in, first out. Because to me, that is the most critical piece of this, because it goes directly to the heart of how do we determine competency.
His name is Chris Ungar. He is the Vice President of the California School Boards Association. My name is Brad Pomerantz. It's California Edition.